The first world flight is important to Seattle because this was the departure point and the arrival point of the first flight around the world. This flight opened up airways, and frankly, Lindbergh was able to capitalize on what these people did to make it successful for his flight. So out of this, airlines started to form throughout the world, and actually the United States was late to the marketplace on airlines. Europeans got way ahead of us. And basically, so this is a celebration then, a historic event. 100 years, took right here in Seattle, Washington. The reason it's Seattle is the Americans, in contrast to the other countries, decided to go westerly. All the other countries except one decided to go easterly. And they looked at the weather patterns throughout the world and their flight plan, and this turned out to be the best place to launch because they wanted to get through the Alaskan area with reasonable weather, reasonable, not good. And of course, the real treacherous leg was going to be from Iceland to Greenland, and they were trying to get the best weather possible. Unfortunately, they did not get good weather on that leg. The first plane was lost in Alaska. He had an engine failure. They fixed the engine, and then he was trying to catch up to the other three airplanes in Dutch Harbor. There was a big fog bank. He got misoriented, and fortunately he landed in a snowfield on the upslopes to the mountainside. So they were able, after 10 days, and a couple miracles like finding a cabin with food that they could replenish and get warm, and they eventually got to the seacoast and were picked up by ships and brought back to Seattle. And of course, Major Martin was from Bremerton, so he went up to Bremerton and talked about the flight. The second flight went down on the way to Iceland, coming out of northern England, to be technical, Scotland. And about 2 hours out, he lost all his oil pressure, so he had to land in the ocean. The swells were very, very large, and it was a very risky landing, but they made it down. The other crew members, 2 airplanes, circled around, and they decided they couldn't land. So they proceeded on, but they had marked his location, and when they came to the first navigation ship, they, by a beanbag type system, told the ship that the other airplane was down and approximately where, and the American ships that were closest by started steaming very quickly to get to that location where they were, and basically how fast they were going, the destroyer Richmond fired at the boiler so fast, hot, that he burned all the paint off the smokestack. So these ship captains were going full speed to get to them. And they found them and they rescued them. They tried to rescue the airplane, but that didn't work, and so it sunk in the ocean. The betting was that only one airplane would make it when they left. Based on my experience as a pilot, none of them should have made it. It's basically visualize wood and fabric and wires. And there was a little bit of metal where they mounted the engine, and other than the metal of the engine, it was like, think cheesecloth, which has been put over the wooden rims and longerons and all those parts, and then you put dope on them to tighten it up, and so they will be able to fly. So they were very fragile airplanes. For example, Major Martin dropped in the airplane from about 50 feet, broke the wires, and fortunately he was a lumber camp, and there were craftsmen that rebuilt the struts for him, and they rewired the airplane, and he took off the next day. So the airplanes were not that durable. Yes, I would call it a miracle that they made it.